Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Path to DevOps journey. In the previous episode, we added an Ingress object to our Helm chart in order to get traffic inside of our front-end application. And today, we're improving on that Ingress object by exposing it on a virtual host. And what I mean by that is instead of hitting the IP address of the Ingress controller, as we were doing in the previous episode, we would actually serve the front-end at a certain domain. In this case, let's say frontend.something.com. So if this sounds fun and you want to know how to do it, let's jump straight into it. As per usual, if you want to follow along, you will be able to find the code changes that I'm making today in this video on the GitHub repository that you can see right here, and it will be in a separate branch named something like feature/02, and instead of adding Ingress, I think I'm going to call it something like DNS hostname or whatever. Yeah, but I will link the branch in the description of the video, so you don't have to worry about it. If you want to follow along, you will be able to get directions in the description. What better way to start making changes to our Ingress object than with the official Kubernetes Ingress documentation page? So as I said, the plan is instead of accessing the front end on an IP address, we would use a host name. Yeah. So if you open the Ingress documentation page, on the menu in the right hand side, you will find something called name-based virtual hosting. And if we look at the diagram, it looks kind of like this. Yeah, you will hit the IP address of the Ingress controller, and then you can have as many virtual host names as you want. In our case, because we have only one front-end application, we will only need one virtual host. And you have an example right here. As I said, the example gives you two hosts which are served at the same Ingress controller IP address. We don't need both of them, we just need one. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to open the tools repository which connects to my Azure DevOps organization, and if we do a git status, you will see that I am on the master branch. So right now let's git checkout -b feature / Ingress _ hostname. Yeah, so let's create a new branch to make our changes. And if we go back to the Ingress object for virtual hosting, yeah, you will see under spec, you have rules and then host and then a lot of other properties. So I'm just going to pick rules, which sits just under spec, and I'm just gonna copy that. And let's go back to our Ingress and just paste it in here. Yeah, and now you'll see that the Ingress class name is something we still need to keep. Before we were using an Ingress object with a default backend service. Right now we're using this virtual host. So let's make some changes. Service name will be here. Number, port number, yeah, will be here. And we won't need this anymore. Yeah, and the host itself, let's expose this through a property in the value file as well. Yeah, so values.ingress. Let's say host. And I think this should do it for now. I don't care about the path type, and the path / means that whenever you hit that host name, it will serve the front end directly on the /. Yeah, there's no mapping in between. But basically, this is all you need to do inside of the Ingress object to attain the new functionality. And then in the values.yaml file under Ingress, we need to add the host key. Yeah, we need it for this one. And in our example, I'm just going to say frontend.barbart.ro. And actually, I'm not going to say frontend, I'm going to say FE. Because I'll create everything with you so you see what I'm doing. Yeah. So there you see we have the changes here: git add, git commit, host based Ingress, git push. And let's push this new branch. This should do it. Now, in order for this DNS hostname to be valid, you need to own the domain. In this case, I own the barbart.ro domain, and I can show it to you here in the Azure portal. As you can see here, this is a DNS zone called barbart.ro, and I have the ability to edit it. And what we need to do here, we need to create a record, called FE. So this record will be type A record, which is an alias record to an IPv4 address. So basically I'm creating the entry fe.barbart.ro, and the IP address needs to be the address of the Ingress controller. So if we do kubectl get service and in the namespace networking, because that's where we deployed our Ingress controller last time, you will see this is the external IP address, and I'm copying it, I'm putting it here in IP address field, and I'm just going to hit OK. So now we have the entry for FE. One quick thing to mention before triggering the pipeline and deploying the Ingress changes to the front end, keep in mind that we made the changes on the feature/ingress hostname branch in the tools repository. So the front end needs to consume the Helm chart, which contains the changes. So basically it needs to consume this branch of the tools repository. So if we go to front end, you see I have a different branch here than master. It's called feature adding ingress. And in the pipeline deploy.yaml, I have the branch reference to feature ingress hostname. And in this way, the front end pipeline will consume the Helm chart from the tools repo in the feature ingress hostname branch. Okay, so keep this in mind. Inside of front end, you need a different branch, and in that branch, you change the pipeline and you add this reference here for the tools repo. All that we need to do right now is deploy the changes for the front end application. So pipelines, front end deploy and run the pipeline, but not from master, again, from the branch which will use the Helm chart with the changes. So in my case, it's feature adding ingress. Doesn't matter the name, just make sure you're referencing the right Helm chart with the Ingress host changes. Pipeline completed successfully. So now let's check out our Ingress object. Kubectl get ingress namespace shiki-ns, and there we go. Under hosts, you can see we have fe.barbart.ro. So now if you copy this host and you open your browser and you hit this one, it should prompt you for your username and password, which we set up last time. So in my case, it's Marco and then it's Polo. And when you hit enter, you should be able to see the application coming up. And when you hit buy now, the pop-up will also appear, which comes from the cart API. So as you can see, our stack of microservices is now fully functional, but bonus feature, we're now not using the IP address, which is very hard to remember if you're a human. We're now using a readable host from a domain. So I have a feeling like some of you don't own a DNS domain or don't know how to get that set up, and I will show you how as fast as I can right now. So in my case, I own the barbart.ro domain, and I'll show you how I owned it in just a few moments. But if you don't have a domain and want to acquire one, you can use a solution like GoDaddy, for example, like a DNS registration and entity, and you can search for your domain like something blah blah blah.com. And when you search for the domain, you see here it's an exact match on .com, and it costs this much, so you can just make it yours. You click here, you go through the process, and you buy this domain. So how did this process look for me? Well, because I'm Romanian, I purchased a Romanian domain from ROTLD, which stands for top level domain, and I have this barbart.ro domain, and this was the whole management interface. When you click on name servers, you see you have a list here. And what I had to do was I created an Azure DNS zone with the same name. So you can see here it's barbart.ro and it matches my domain name. And then I had to pull the list from here, the name server list, which Azure gave me when I created this zone, and I had to link these 4 name servers right here. Okay, and that's basically everything I had to do. And once this happened, I kind of proven to Azure that I own that domain, and then from this zone on forwards I can manage my entries and I can create subzones. I can add the child zone if I wanted. I can create records and everything I need for my DNS management. Bottom line, don't get scared about DNS management, DNS zone management, DNS record management. Try to study the documentation behind this and understand the technology. Ultimately, it will lead you to a better product, which again, you serve your web page on a human readable domain, and that's extremely user friendly. Okay. And now that we've done this in this video, next time we're also going to make the connection secure. Yeah, so we're going to have a certificate which secures our connection client to server. And in this case, everything will look top notch, and it's going to be at the same quality like any other website on the internet. But the caveat here is that you are going to make this setup and understand and know how to make this setup in the future. As I mentioned, this is it for today, guys. If you're still here, you're the real OG. Thank you for giving me your time of the day, and I hope this learning journey is useful to you. I appreciate any comments down below if there's any. Also, likes and subscribes, obviously. So, thank you once more, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.